Good morning, everybody. I am so excited for my guest this morning. And those who follow us and know what we've been through, he is likewise no stranger to being censored. He is actually a massive target against what the liberal media and agendas they have in propaganda, what they've been pushing, especially in regards to your health and wellness. Mr. Zeck, despite being on another Facebook ban, you're still here with us today. So I'm so
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah, thank you for
Welcome.
having me.
So, Alec Zeck, a little bit of background. He received his BS in systems engineering from the United States Military Academy at West Point. He is a speaker, writer, podcaster, former Army captain, and he is the executive director and founder of Health Freedom for Humanity, which is a nonprofit whose mission is to unite people from all walks of life under one common purpose. The reclaiming and defense of health freedoms. And boy, isn't that a crazy word right now?
Yeah, it's like somehow become some controversial word, which is just absurd.
It's crazy. I feel like every interview I do, I feel like anybody I am talking to, I keep saying this is just a wild time we're living in right now. Um, I feel like anyone who knows you, obviously, one, if you're getting censored, if you're getting banned, I always say those are the people you want to listen to. Those are the ones sharing the truth that they're trying to stop. So when did you like what year was it? Because I don't know the full story of when you really took off being a public advocate. So can you kind of like walk me through that? Because you are one of, I know doctors from all around the world come to you and sign to and pick your brain. And they're like, hey, listen, let's talk about this. And so that's like rather unusual and extremely common. So you have this wealth of knowledge. I mean, like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, that's a good and loaded question. The I began advocating, and I just call it sharing my authentic perspective on everything going on. Um, right at the beginning of COVID, that's when I first
Okay.
started speaking, and I have had what is generally my currently held perspective on things for at least 6 years now. And that was a result of watching my wife and my mom, who were chronically ill within the allopathic system. My mom on the psychiatric side of things, my wife on the autoimmune rheumatology side of things, be chronically ill in that system. And then upon leaving that system for what that system calls pseudoscience and quackery, um, aka holistic health based in nature, my mom and my wife both began to heal. And my wife has now been in remission from lupus and rheumatoid arthritis for 6 years. And she was told that she would, she was chronically ill for 9 years. She was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis when she was 15, and was told she'd always be that way, that she would just have to manage it with different types of immunosuppressive drugs, which of course had side effects that led to her being on other drugs, which led to, side effects again, which led to more drugs. So she was on this just gambit of pharmaceutical products, and healed in a matter of 3 to 4 months, or began healing. It's still a process, but nonetheless reversed all of her autoimmune symptoms in a matter of 3 to 4 months. And after seeing that in 2016, it changed my life, really, in that I was never a huge advocate for allopathic medicine necessarily. I never really went to the doctor much myself. I was a healthy, athletic guy, um, but never questioned vaccines, never questioned, the pharmaceutical industry, never really questioned doctors, never was really pro allopathic medicine. But after seeing this happen, it shifted my entire perspective, and I began questioning everything, not just about my own health and about the government, but about the nature of reality, period. I just went down a never ending rabbit hole of questioning everything. And I think that along the way, I've had to shed so many deeply rooted, deeply held beliefs about myself, about reality, about my relationship to the world, about relationships in general, about our government. So I'm not afraid to question anything that I hold to be true currently. And I always come at things with an open mind, which has just led me to the depths of, I think, the rabbit hole surrounding health and disease and the pharmaceutical industry and what have you. So when COVID hit, I began speaking out, and people started resonating with what I was saying, and I just continued doing what I'm doing, and have been censored several times. So that's where I'm at.
Boy, those rabbit holes, they go deep. I've been down a few myself. And I think that's one of the issues that we've seen over the last couple years, that should be alarming to everybody. No matter what side you're on, what your beliefs are, we're told not to question. We're told, here's your answer. Don't research, don't ask questions. Do as I say. Do as what we're telling you to do. And that right there should be absolutely alarming for people. If anything, so we have almost 600,000 parents here, all across the globe, from all walks of life, different beliefs. And we've seen now, there's starting to be more of a shift. And I'm not sure if you're seeing it too. I wish more people's eyes were open, but we're starting to see more of a shift where people are like, hold up, something's not adding up. Like something's not right. And I think a lot of that is simply, well, now there's proof we've been lied to. The promises that have been made by political leaders, by health organizations, by vaccine manufacturers, all of these promises, if you do this, X, Y, and Z won't happen. That's already been debunked. I mean, like you, I have been deplatformed. I have been censored and shadow banned, fact checked numerous times. And I'm like, when are these people going to swing back around and apologize? Everything that I've been fact checked for and debunked has now come to fruition, has been proven otherwise. And so I'd like you to kind of start back at the beginning of the pandemic. And what do you think? Because I know you talk a lot about like viruses in general. And I think, this is just going to be fascinating I have 5 children. All of these families, we hate to see any of our kids sick. We hate to see any loved one sick. Even a stranger, someone who's my enemy, I don't like to see them suffer. And I especially don't like to see people live in fear over things that are not even truthful. And so however you want to start there, like walk me back through the beginning of the pandemic when COVID first broke out.
Yeah. So there's some important context here. And I think the best way to frame this is using an analogy that is used in Dr. Thomas Cowan's book, The Contagion Myth. And I'll walk you through this one. So if I were to hypothesize that a ping pong ball could break down a brick wall, logically speaking, you'd need to see me have that ping pong ball by itself, observe it breaking down the brick wall, right? Of course, sure. If I were to hypothesize that. So if I were to take a giant hammer and smash the brick wall several times, pour a bunch of acid on the brick wall, and then tape a ping pong ball to a giant boulder and then hurl it at the brick wall, and the brick wall fell down, have I proven that the ping pong ball caused the destruction of that brick wall, or have I validated that hypothesis in any way?
I mean, absolutely.
It's a simple, absolutely not. Yeah, it's
right.
Of course, absolutely not. Okay, so let's relate this back to everything that has happened in the last 2.5 years, and honestly, well beyond that, because this pertains to all of infectious diseases and specifically pertaining to virology. So if I were to tell you that SARS-CoV-2 has not been isolated or proven to exist, and really you could insert any other virus in place of SARS-CoV-2, you would probably go onto Google or onto PubMed or on Google Scholar and look up isolation of insert virus, find a bunch of peer-reviewed papers, send them to me, say you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. How could you possibly say that? Here's all these peer-reviewed studies refuting what you're saying. Here's the issue, though. If you read the methods section of that paper, or literally any other paper, you will find that the following procedure is done. And this relates back to that analogy that I shared regarding the ping pong ball and the brick wall. They take snot or other fluids from a sick person that they presuppose contains a virus. They do not validate that there is a virus inside that snot or fluids at all. They presuppose that there is a virus inside that fluid. They put that so-called infectious fluid or substance from a sick person on a monkey kidney cell known as a vero cell culture, right? On a monkey kidney cell alongside cytotoxic antibiotics like amphotericin B, gentamicin, penicillin, streptomycin. They also add what's called trypsin, which is an enzyme eater that's known to break down proteins. They also add fetal bovine serum. They also add what's called minimal nutrient medium. And minimal nutrient medium is essentially giving the cell the minimal amount of nutrients to keep it viable, right? So they're adding all these substances onto the cell. The cell breaks down into a bunch of fragments. They then take those fragments and prepare them for electron microscopy. And preparing them for electron microscopy requires that they heat it, they stain it, they freeze dry it in some cases, they bombard it with electron beams. So if I were to do that to you in your natural state, Reagan, I would imagine that you wouldn't look the same as you do in your natural state. So, and then they have these electron micrograph images after they prepared those fragments of the breakdown of the cell. They then point to those fragments on those electron micrograph images and say, voila, here are the viruses. This is SARS-CoV-2, or this is measles, or this is, insert any other virus. And how that relates back to the ping pong ball and the brick wall analogy is they assume that all of those other substances that they've added to the culture in these isolation experiments, the amphotericin, the gentamicin, the penicillin, streptomycin, trypsin, all these other substances have no effect. They are assuming that it must be the virus that is inside the fluids of a sick person that caused this cell to break down, although they literally never validated that the virus was there. So referring back to the ping pong ball brick wall analogy, it would be as if I said in the same thought experiment, I believe that a ping pong ball could break down a brick wall. And then I just simply take a giant hammer, smash the brick wall several times, pour acid on the brick wall, and just take a giant boulder and throw it at the wall, and the wall breaks down. I never even showed that the ping pong ball was present in the first place. And then I'm saying that, oh, the ping pong ball is what caused the destruction of this brick wall. That's essentially what virologists are doing with virology. In all of their isolation studies, they do not validate that there is any virus present whatsoever. And this will probably be a shocking statement to people. Every single electron micrograph image, so every image, actual image that you've seen of a virus ever, is the result of the experiment that I just described, where they take that fluid from a sick person. Right. They don't find any virus inside the fluids. They don't show that there's any virus inside the fluids. They just assume that it's there, mix it with all of those other substances that are toxic. And interesting point, amphotericin B, which is used on the culture, if you look up side effects of amphotericin B, you will find that kidney failure, renal failure is one of the most common side effects. They're putting amphotericin B on a kidney cell in this experiment. And remember, they're assuming that it has no effect on the cell. It's simply there to keep out bacteria and fungi. But they're assuming it has no effect on the cell. And they're assuming that it must be the virus inside the fluids that they never validated that is causing the cell to break down. So when it comes to virology, sorry, you probably have a question.
Well, I'm like, I mean, I know some of this at like a third grade level, you know.
Yeah, well, the last point I want to say, then you can ask whatever you want to ask. Because there's tons of questions that people have, like, well, then what is causing 2 or more people to get sick in the same space? What about the symptoms? All these things. Is that this applies to every single virus throughout history, and this is a bold statement, but it is true. There is no evidence that strictly adheres to the scientific method proving the existence of viruses, period. And again, that may be shocking to people who have never heard it, but there are much more plausible explanations for what is causing people to be sick. And you can even use the available CDC's COVID data to sort of validate what I'm saying there too.
Wow, that's a lot. It really is a lot. And so, okay, so because you're truly one of the most fascinating intellectual people that I know and I follow, and you are at such a high level. And so to break that down for common folk like myself, so what is it then? So for instance, I had tested positive for COVID-19, and I was rather sick, had super high fever, chills, body aches, like chest pain. And when I had got this, I never thought COVID wasn't real, but I knew that everything around it, surrounding it, was just like not making sense, and there was so many spews and lies and so forth. And I'm completely unvaccinated, and of course, as sick as I was, I had told my husband, like, do not take me to a hospital. They will kill me there. Like, truly, I was like, I'll die in this bed before you take me to the hospital, because I also knew what was going on there.
Yep.
And what they would do to me, especially being unvaccinated. So what happened, for instance, like when I got sick there, likewise, like last week, 3 of 5 of my children were sick with fevers, and they all went down like almost a day apart. So, like, of course, different scenarios, but as best you can in layman's terms, how do you describe that?
Yeah. So first, I'd like to give some additional context here, because people always assume that we've been so myopically focused on the idea that we are sick because of being around others, and we get sick because the fluids from them are passed to us, right?
Right.
But I want to give some context here that is really important. There's several experiments that have been done trying to prove that disease is passed via the fluids of a sick person to a healthy person. One of those, which some of your listeners and viewers may already know, is the Rosenau experiments during the Spanish flu. So in these series of experiments, remember, during the Spanish flu, which is said to have been the most deadly, highly virulent viral pandemic in history, and I want to acknowledge here, yes, absolutely, people died. What we're trying to get at, though, is what caused them to be sick. And again, here in these set of experiments, they set out to prove, Milton Rosenau set out to prove that that disease was passed via the fluids of a sick person. So at 2 different quarantine stations in the United States, one in Boston Harbor and then one on Angel Island in San Francisco, 100 volunteers from the Navy who had no history of influenza, meaning they were presently not sick and they had not been sick with the Spanish flu at any point during that pandemic, were chosen, and a portion of them received swabs from sick people in the back of their throats. A portion of them received blood from sick people injected directly into them. Another portion of them were taken into a Spanish flu ward where they were exposed to 10 influenza patients each. Think about this. Like, that would be akin to taking you into a hospital full of COVID patients, having you shake hands with 10 of them, and then they even had them open mouth cough directly into their face, breathe in their face, and the process was repeated 5 times each with each 10 patients. So each person that was a volunteer talked to 10 patients, and within each of those patients went through that process 5 times of open mouth coughing, shaking hands, talking with them at close range. And guess how many people out of the 100 people that were chosen for this experiment got sick?
I mean,
0.
wow.
0 people got sick. That's not it, though. There's several other experiments. Here's another one. This one was done in 1919, just at the end of the Spanish flu. Set of 8 experiments done on 50 people. 0 out of 50 men became sick. I can send you all the links for all these papers so you can share them with your community afterwards. Another one in 1919, 0 out of 6 men contracted influenza after being exposed to mucus from sick people. Another one in 1920, 2 controlled experiments exposing healthy people to the body fluids of sick people. Of 196 people exposed to the mucus secretions of sick people, 21 did get sick. Here's the interesting point, though. Of the 43 controls who had been inoculated with sterile salt solutions, basically saline, 8 or 18% of them got sick. So 10%, 21 out of 196, versus 8 out of 43, 18.6%. More people got sick in the control group than those that were exposed to the sick people. So more people got sick as a result of the salt solutions than those who were exposed to sick people. Another one in 1921, Williams, the guy conducting the experiment, tried to experimentally infect 45 healthy men with the common cold influenza by exposing them to mucus secretions from sick people. 0 out of 45 became ill. Another one in 1924, 0 out of 100 became ill. Another one in 1937, 0 out of 200. I could go on and on. The point is, every time we've tried to prove that disease is passed via the fluids of a sick person, it has shown the exact opposite. So this idea, and it is an idea, it is a concept, it is not true in reality, has been impressed upon us for ages, for our entire lives growing up in this country, that we think anytime we get sick, it must be because we were exposed to another person who is sick. Here's the reality, though, because I don't want to deny that the appearance of contagion or 2 or more people getting sick isn't a real phenomenon. It absolutely is a real phenomenon where 2 or more people get sick in the same space with similar symptoms. But again, referring back to those experiments, all those experiments proved otherwise when it came to the fluids of a sick person. And then again, referring back to what I just shared with virology, and there's a lot more context, and I'll share with Reagan a link to my presentation that I recently did that covers this more extensively for those who are interested in learning more. Virology is literally pseudoscience. So what we have to go back to is what is most likely causing 2 or more people to get sick in the same space, and that's exposure to similar toxins, similar eating habits, so similar malnutrition in some case, shared emotional trauma, fear / the nocebo effect. And you can refer back to the COVID-19 data from the CDC for that. An example is a study conducted by the CDC determined that the 2 largest risk factors for death associated with COVID-19 were obesity, which is no surprise, and then the second one was fear / anxiety related disorders. That was the second strongest risk factor for death with COVID-19. And then the last one would be shared exposure to non-native electromagnetic fields and frequencies. But then there's other possibilities. Reagan, I know that you're a woman. When you're around other women for extended periods of time, have you ever synced up on your menstrual cycles with them?
Yes.
Is that caused by a pathogenic virus?
I mean, no.
You would argue no, right?
Right.
Okay. If you yawn and you're around someone else, does someone else yawn as well? Usually, like right afterwards?
I mean, sometimes, yeah.
Right?
Sometimes,
yeah. Is that caused by a pathogenic virus?
No.
No. So there's other subconscious, energetic, possibly pheromones, mirror neurons. There's other things that are at play here when it comes to interaction between 2 human beings, 2 or more human beings, that we just don't know. And this is the issue. 99.9999% of our funding, education, resources, and attention has been on this unproven concept of pathogenic particles that are passed from person to person. So when it comes to all these other possibilities, we have not studied them. We have not looked into them in depth, so we can't possibly know. Again, these are just ideas for what could be causing all these other phenomenons when 2 or more people are getting sick in the same space. I like to think of it like this, and especially as it relates to the overwhelming number of unvaccinated people who have said that they have gotten sick when being around a vaccinated person, because I know several people who have had that happen to them. If we are all connected via a web of energy, or we have electromagnetic fields that surround our hearts. Some people say that that's measurable up to a 3-foot radius outside of your heart. You actually have a field that you emit. Or going back to Veda Austin's work, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with. If you're not familiar with Veda Austin, I highly recommend looking into her work. Her work is essentially showing that water not only reflects back to us our reality. If you expose water to a thought, to a frequency, to a feeling, leave it at your bedside at night and expose it to a dream, and then freeze the water in a petri dish, it will reflect back to you exactly what it saw, showing that water fundamentally communicates with us. And if we are made up of 2/3 water by weight, and 9 out of 10 molecules in our body are water, and that water in us is structured, it's not far-fetched to say that we could communicate with each other via the water in our bodies somehow energetically. And so when 2 or more people, or when one person, going back to the unvaccinated being exposed to vaccinated people issue, when a person comes into contact with another person that has just come into contact with a poison, is it too far-fetched to say that that person's body, via the water in them or via pheromones or other energetic mechanisms, could communicate to that person, hey, I've come into contact with a poison. Your body needs to detoxify right now so that you can be better equipped to deal with that poison when you come across it. And of course, if you don't get the shot, then you're not going to come across the poison. But I doubt our bodies energetically differentiate. The point is that we have these energetic communication mechanisms that are shared amongst us that we could be alerting each other to, hey, I've come into contact with this certain poison. You should detoxify right now. Or it could be that, like in the fall, when trees all shed their leaves at the same times, maybe certain points in time, you and others around you who you live in community with, maybe your bodies signal to each other, hey, let's detoxify right now. Let's do a detox protocol, because that's all symptoms really are. It's your body doing what God designed your body to do. It's detoxifying itself. When those symptoms are acute and they're not long lasting, that's a good thing. If the symptoms are perpetual, that probably means there's something deeper for you to look at, because your body's struggling to detox, or you're, exposing your body to too many poisons at once. So that was a very long-winded answer. So hopefully that provides some context.
Well, no, I mean, it's really fascinating, and is you who are so well studied on this, I think we're trying to just grasp at it in process is you're sharing it. So tell me, as far as, so, and again, I think we're past the point, you and I, of trying to, again, our mission is not to upset people or hurt feelings, but it's just sharing truth, and it is what it is. We're now seeing a huge amounts of people who have chosen to be vaccinated who are now regretting that for a number of reasons. Of course, so many of them have had loved ones die from it, from complications. Their life is now completely different, whether they're paralyzed or have such severe adverse reactions. Again, their livelihood is completely different. So if you were to go in depth about these vaccines, or those of us who are around them, because shedding is a real thing, right?
I don't personally think that shedding is a real thing. I think, again, going back to what I shared before, if half the human population has willingly received a new toxin injected into them that they are probably going to communicate via that energetic mechanism that I was describing earlier, or
Right.
pheromones, or some other way that, hey, I've come into contact with this poison, this toxin. You who have not come into contact with it, you need to detoxify, which is why we've seen many, unvaccinated people, even women shedding decidual casts, right? Like shedding tons and tons of blood out of their vagina. And we know that women's menstrual cycles, that is a really big point of detoxification for them. That is women detoxifying. So I really think that it's simply a temporary detoxification that the people who are unvaccinated are experiencing by being around those who have been vaccinated. I don't think it's long lasting. Can I say that for sure? No. Do I think that shedding is a real thing, though? No, absolutely not. I don't.
I think that'll bring relief to a lot of people, certainly. So let's fast forward to present day, and I know we could take this a number of avenues. From some people look at people like you and I and call us conspiracy theorists. We can take this from a spiritual warfare level to evil government and health officials.
Whichever way you want to go.
I mean, literally, this really is.
It's all intertwined. It
really is. It's all intertwined. It's so multifaceted that it's like, which rabbit hole do we jump down? So we've now seen people kind of pulling themselves out of the COVID wave, so to speak, in the fear, right? We saw the majority be able to pull themselves out of that, and now we're seeing monkeypox, right? So the WHO has declared, a global emergency. Now, for a number of reasons, I was anticipating, and again, this is a personal opinion. This is my narrative. I had foreseen this coming fall and winter, being bad. I foresee another shutdown for a number of reasons. And again, for those who don't think that there is agenda, there is an agenda. Oh, there is an agenda. These things are so well planned out, so methodically. What are your thoughts on this monkeypox that is now transpiring?
Yeah. I, again, refer back to the same thing. Where is the proof of this so-called pathogenic particle that is passed from person to person that is causing what is a real set of symptoms, right? Again, right. When we're referring to something, we need to be specific. So when I'm talking about monkeypox, there's two different ways to look at it. There is the alleged virus, the monkeypox virus, and there is the real set of symptoms, the pustules that form on people's skin. That is real. But is there any proof that the alleged virus they're saying is the cause? And is there any proof that it exists? And I can say beyond really any shadow of a doubt, no, there is no proof whatsoever that the so-called virus called monkeypox exists. And I did a 2-hour presentation on monkeypox specifically with several PhD researchers and doctors of all types that I'm happy to share with you, that you can share afterwards. But essentially, it goes back to the same thing. We have real sets of symptoms that people are having, again, which is your body detoxifying itself. But we are blaming these symptoms on a so-called virus that has never been proven to exist in reality. It is an idea, it is a concept, it is not real. Again, every electron micrograph image of any so-called virus comes as a result of the experiments that I described at the beginning of this discussion. So I'll share more for others to look into that. But the point is, because we're so myopically focused on this unproven concept of viruses, we then are, trying to kill these viruses, trying to eliminate these viruses. In the process of doing that, we are developing continual coping mechanisms, masking, 2 masks, 3 masks, vaccines, more vaccines, another booster, another type of vaccine. We're developing all these toxic coping mechanisms to cope with something that we are fundamentally misinterpreting and misrepresenting. And the reality is, the more that we double down on trying to eliminate that which doesn't even exist in the first place and hasn't been proven to exist, we are actually killing ourselves in the process. And whether that's intentional or not, that's for others to interpret and determine, to contemplate on. I have my views. And that's the reality, though. We're going to continue to get sicker and sicker and sicker the more that we buy into these toxic, carcinogenic injections that are made by companies that are habitually criminal organizations that profit from perpetual disease. That's the reality. And they keep on selling these things as cures, and they are in fact perpetuating disease.
Right. I mean, you just said it. You know, the pharmaceutical industry does not make money off of healthy people. I've had family members. My dear grandmother, who had passed, who was always chronically ill. Like, I watched her, like you had said, what your wife had been through since she was 15. It was just all these medications to help with these symptoms, but all of those medications caused all of these other issues, and then she'd become more chronically ill, and then so we need a new wave of medication. And even at a young age, I remember thinking, Graham, these pills are killing you. Like, these are killing you. Like, I know nothing. I'm 12 years old, and these are hurting you. And so I think that's not an argument that most people can agree with. And someone, and myself too, and I want to talk to you and your wife at some point. I know we all have such busy lives. I was diagnosed with lupus. And I've refused any type of like treatment or medications. And I've seen myself go in and out of remission. And that's another story with a plant-based lifestyle and holistic things years ago. And that really opened my eyes. But see, people don't want to hear about natural healing. Some things are actually rather simple. Like, if you see an obese person who wants to lose weight, you know, they don't like to hear, you know, you need to drink more water, you need to eat healthy foods, you need to work out. Well, that's too simple. Well, that's just not going to work for me. You know, some of these things, there's really simple solutions, and yet we live in this culture that is just, for so many reasons, where adults are being groomed, conditioned, desensitized. Our children are being the same. And like you said, most of us, it's hard to pull out of it because that's all we've ever known at every turn, you know, since we were children. And so it is really hard because from a spiritual warfare standpoint to just like physically, you know, tangible elements, it's like the claws are in so deep, and it's all we've ever known. And so now let's kind of turn the conversation and finish up with, what do we do? I've seen different resources you've given in beautiful lists that you've composed of, like, how do we detoxify? Like, what are these toxins that we can try to avoid?
Yep.
I mean, I just know, just from a mother, like going to the grocery store, the majority of items my children want to put in the cart are absolutely disgusting. You know what I mean? They're filled with, you know, they weren't there. So many of these items, you know, 50 years ago. And so many, especially in the United States, so many of our ingredients, when you compare them to the same product in other countries, ours have 7 more ingredients in them than the other countries. I mean, it's sickening. Like,
Which
and I know
shows how corrupt the FDA is in our country.
yes,
So like them regulating anything is just nonsense.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to touch on the point that you brought up of like, what can we do to detoxify? And what comes to mind first is that it is unique to the individual. That's the first thing, is that we've been conditioned to believe that there's a one size fits all approach that sort of casts an umbrella over everyone that will work for everyone. But
Right.
what I can say, speaking very generally, is that it's important to eat organic foods. It's important to eat and try to source your food locally and not support large grocery store chains as much as you possibly can. Growing your own food is important for several reasons. because that it forces you to spend time in nature outside with your feet on the ground, connected, uh, and and it's also that the intention behind growing your own food actually has an effect on your own body and your relationship to the nutrients in the food. But so that's the first thing is eating organic food. What that looks like for one person is going to be different than others. I know people who are, whole food plant based. I know people who are carnivore. I know people who are animal based. I know people who are paleo, who are Whole30. The point is just eat what you intuitively feel is right for your body, but make sure you're eating organic, unprocessed, one ingredient foods is what I like to say. That's the first thing. The second, and this is one of the biggest pieces that is missed amongst both allopathic medicine and holistic approaches to health, is the psycho-spiritual emotional component to health. So many people think that they can heal all of their ailments just by changing their diet. And what my wife found, what I've found, what many people are finding is that if you don't heal the underlying trauma, emotional trauma, all the things that you've experienced growing up, all the information and negative ideas that have been impressed upon you, subconscious and unconscious beliefs about yourself and your relationship to the world. If you don't heal those, you're not getting to the root, because I truly believe almost every physical manifestation of symptoms has an underlying spiritual, emotional component to it. So you need to be doing the work to address those things. And for me, that looks like meditating, doing talk therapy, meditating and going back to reparent my younger self in a deep meditative state, being who I needed to have at that point in time when I experienced those traumas, praying, having a connection to God, having a connection to family, and making amends on all the wrongs that I committed in my life and changing my behavior, and having a ritual every morning that I practice to set my day. And that's going to look different for everyone else. And then the other things are movement, the importance of not sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day, as many of us are. I mean, I sit in a chair for a good portion of my day, but when I'm not sitting in a chair, I make sure I'm moving my body quite a bit. And when we're bombarded with amounts of toxins that we're bombarded with in the 21st century, which is just ever increasing, it's important that we are working to detoxify on a daily basis, really. And that, for me, looks like working out. I work out once, sometimes twice a day, make sure I'm sweating a lot, and then make sure I'm spending lots of times outside in the sun. And for me, that's what helps me maintain my health, but it's going to be different for everyone. The point is just there's this push for synthetic, and on the other side is the natural world that God provides. And the more that we can get back to what nature provides us, what God provides us, and the more we can cut the ties with those things that are trying to push us into this synthetic world, the healthier we'll be.
Yes. And I think we're starting to see that too. I know myself personally, a lot of people think I'm joking, but when I say this, but I'm very serious. Like, I'm someone, I can keep 5 humans alive. I can't keep houseplants alive, but I have this like innate desire that I want to grow my own, I want to start growing my own food. I know nothing about farms. I have this huge desire. I want to get a farm. I found these close, like farm animals that I've been going to every day that just makes me, I don't know, it's like healing. It is like, I want to, you and I do our work on social media, and social media is a blessing and a curse. And I want to be where God's calling me to be, but I'm just feeling this pull to really like go back, like way back to when, like what you're talking about, growing our own food, like being outside, not, it's just, and again, we're talking about those simpler things that it's unpopular right now, right?
Yep.
Like, it's just like everything online and everything from your grocery store. And it's true. Like, I'm looking into like meeting with my local farmers, spending a little extra here, which I'm going to be getting so much more in return. And it's really fascinating. And I feel like there's so many people who are on this, I'm going to just say like this third grade level who are afraid to do this, but it's like you just got to start. You just got to do it because your health, relies on it, and it's
Yep.
making hard decisions.
And to your other points on you sharing that, if you approach an obese person and they say, or you give them very simple, ways to reverse their current health condition, and then being averse to that, that is something that is so common in our society. And that's a result of wanting a quick fix, not understanding that consistent work to achieve a certain goal is required, right? Like being consistent on a day-to-day basis. And then the other piece is the victim mentality. And there's so much I could share there. That could be a whole separate episode. Maybe I'll have to come back on. But it's a victim mentality, and that's what our society and it has created, and it's the result of several things. The public school system does not impress upon us critical thinking skills, does not impress upon us how to think, but rather what to think and to memorize and to outsource to other people, and to, get all the answers from specific authority figures that happen to know way better than we know about any specific thing, and only they could possibly know because they're the expert, and we shouldn't, question it. And that's what we're taught. And then the other thing is, going back to my initial points, the germ theory of disease allows for this victim mentality, because you are then able to blame your health problems on the random chance happenings of submicroscopic particles rather than your daily choices. Your choices on a daily basis are what leads to your health or your disease, not any random chance happenings of an unproven submicroscopic particle. And again, us believing that it's these particles that are causing disease pushes us deeper into that victim mentality and pushes us deeper into disease.
And it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but of course, foods, because we're, absolutely ingesting them, physically putting them into our body, I know that's always the number one thought, but it's likewise certain candles, certain air fresheners.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Like people don't realize, like, oh, my house smells so beautiful. I just sprayed it. Like I was one of those people. Like we're all choking, but it smells so pretty.
Here, I'll do this. I love doing this. So I've made a list. If someone asks, so if it's not a virus, then Alec, what's making us sick? I don't know. Poor nutrition, herbicides, pesticides, stress, mold, perpetual fear, overuse of pharmaceuticals, poor sleep, poor gut health, heavy metals, toxic skin products, EMF exposure, dental procedures, toxic air fresheners, toxic cleaning products, lack of community, overuse of antibiotics, overconsumption of sugar, pasteurized inorganic dairy, fast food, processed foods, refined grains, lack of time in nature, lack of exercise, poor detox pathways, unhealed trauma, vegetable oils, toxic tap water, lack of minerals, soda, overconsumption of alcohol, smoking, poor oral hygiene, chemtrails, vaccines, and so many other things.
And I think it's suffice to say, every single person watching this or listening to this is going to be like, yep, I've been there or done that. Like a large portion of that list, we've all been guilty, unknowing, a lot of that list unknowing. We think we're doing the right thing. Oh, this is the best cleaning product. This is the best, you know what I mean? We don't even realize. I know in my home right now, some of my detergents or cleaning products, I know they have toxins in them. And so it is, and it can be overwhelming. So, I want to stress to people listening, because sometimes when we get overwhelmed and we think of that long list and you're like, someone's like, yep, 97% of that's me. I'm just, when I'm ready to go, God take me, I'm not even going to start. It can be overwhelming. It's baby steps. It's not going to be an overnight thing where you can go out and afford to get all new things and transfer everything out. It is baby steps,
Yep.
but that's part of the lifestyle.
Yep.
Again, this isn't a quick pill. It's not a quick shake. It's not a rapid. It's a longevity thing. This is a
Yes.
lifestyle.
Yes, and that's such an important point. And that's why I shared there's this side that is trying to pull us into a more synthetic world, and then there's the natural world, nature, what God provides. And we need to really look at every area of our life and reflect on, okay, is this natural? Is this providing me healing? Is me being around this person or around this substance or putting this on my body, putting this in my body, putting this on my skin, ingesting
Yeah.
this, eating this, is this bringing me closer to health, or is this bringing me closer to disease? And it's going to be different for each person. Some of us,
Yes.
I personally follow what's called an animal-based diet. That works for me. I have friends who also follow the same diet as me that are really healthy. I have other friends who have tried this diet and are very sick. I have friends who are plant-based and are healthy. It's different, and that's just nutrition, but it applies to everything else. It's different from person to person.
Yes. Yes. And we have just questions left and right. Can we get that list? Where's that list? And so I mean, literally, for those who don't know this man, he is just like this plethora of knowledge. It's just like we could do 20 episodes and we'd still need to do more. Um, and so after we end, whatever you send me, I'm going to link below this so people just have your resources just to go right to. And it really is fascinating because um, Alec had even sent me, that a couple hour presentation he did, and and you've done so many of these. You do these every day, but it's so intriguing, and everybody just needs to. And again, we're not pushing anything on anybody, but if we are living in this time, the one thing we're suggesting is do your research. Like, just do your research. Ask questions. So many people that have gone to their doctor sick or gone to get these vaccines, they're asking the pharmacist, they're asking the doctor or the nurse, but can you tell me what's in this? No, I can't. But just here, roll up your sleeve. No, like, do again, what is best for you and your family is not going to be best for another family. And so there's no judgment being passed, but we are just saying you're worth it. Like, do the due diligence, do the
Yep.
work, do the studying, do the research, and do not be afraid to ask questions, and do not go through with something until you've gotten your answers and you feel good about it.
Yep. Yep. I want to share two things to follow up that. One is that there's one side of the spectrum that is continually saying, trust yourself. Don't blindly trust anyone. Don't blindly dismiss anyone necessarily, but trust yourself first. Take information from both sides of the spectrum, filter it through the lens of your own observations, your own experience, your own intuition, and trust yourself first. You are capable of discerning. You are capable of understanding what is best for you. You are capable of determining that. You have an intuition. All of us do. And you are capable of understanding these things. And then there's the other side of the spectrum that is continually saying, you must blindly trust me. You must not listen to people on that side. You must do what we say. You must not trust yourself. And you must take the products that we offer. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have someone, or I'd rather put my trust in someone who is telling me to trust myself than someone who is telling me I must blindly trust them. And so when it comes to doing your own research, I'm not necessarily saying that everything that they say is a lie, but I am saying that it's important for you to take what they say, take what anyone else says, counter to that, or across the spectrum of knowledge related to any specific topic, and filter it through the lens of your own observations, experiences, and intuition, and come to a conclusion on what you think is best for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Don't blindly trust me either. I don't want anyone to blindly trust me. I want people to stop blindly trusting. I also want people to stop blindly dismissing. Is there things that Biden says that are absolutely moronic? Yes. Overwhelmingly, yes. But does that mean he is incapable of saying something true? No. Same goes for Trump, and same goes for, you know, the people that are opposed to Trump. The point is, we need to stop subscribing to this idea that, this really black and white thinking that, you know, one side of the spectrum needs to be blindly dismissed while the other side needs to have everything that they say is fundamentally true. And that goes for anyone on any side of any spectrum. Trust yourself, take information from all sides of the spectrum, filter it through the lens of your own observations, your own experiences, and your intuition, and trust yourself first. That's it.
Yes. Amazing. And I think to piggyback on that, the fear mongering and anyone who is forcing you into something, this is going to happen to you if you don't do this. My heart aches at seeing so many who have suffered in so many different ways due to being put in a position of fear. That is not, and even from a spiritual standpoint, we know where fear comes from. It's not a place of God. You know, you should have, especially
Amen.
something that's truly going to affect you, even not even long term, even presently. You need to be at a place of peace. It might not be a great situation because we're all faced with difficult situations, and you might have only two decisions and neither of them are happy, joyful ones, but you should be in a place of peace before making those decisions, and not in a place of doing something crazy out of fear. And so I know that's a lot of what you talk about too. And I love, and I think we could even do like an entire episode on, I know I personally don't know how to process a lot of emotional trauma and
Yeah.
things I've been through. And my way of processing is simply dismissing it and pretending it didn't happen because I'm in survival mode and I'm going to focus on today. And that only gets you so far because it eventually catches up with you.
Absolutely.
And
At least you're aware of that, though. That's good.
I
That's like
am.
step
Oh,
one.
I'm totally aware. And it's been a coping mechanism of mine since a young child.
Yeah.
And it's great in some ways for, you know, I need to get through the next few hours, but it's a seeping wound. And that bandage just keeps popping off until you put another tiny bandage on it that's going to pop off. And so I think it's such a huge part of our health, of our entire well-being that so many of us disregard because we don't have time for it, right? We just don't have time to process that. And yet it's everything. We have to make the time. And so I'd love to have you back on. I definitely want to stay in touch with you. And I think there's so many phenomenal things that we can talk about, you know, and you can and share your wealth with people on. But so many people, everybody's commenting, they love this. And I can't thank you enough. You are a busy man. I scheduled this way in advance. Like everybody wants to speak with you. And so I'm truly grateful to have you here today. And I'd love to have you back on. So let's definitely keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Reagan. I really appreciate you having me on. I'd like to share real quick. So our organization is currently developing a donation-based membership platform, and you can find us at healthfreedomforhumanity.org. You cannot share that link on Facebook. Our website is considered a banned link, a harmful link on Facebook. But again, that's healthfreedomforhumanity.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We rely on donations in order to operate. So I sincerely appreciate any donations to our organization, especially because we're developing this membership platform that is going to be providing people with solutions that they can implement in their lives to, you know, help thwart all of this nonsense that's going on in the world. And we're just trying to lead people to a path of health, wellness, mindfulness, and sovereignty. So yeah, find us at healthfreedomforhumanity.org.
Amazing. And I wonder if I link that after this interview, if it'll be flagged. I'll probably get banned too. You and I,
yeah,
I'm sure
maybe
like
if you do like here, I'll give you our flow page link. I'll allow you to share that because that's our only way we found to get around it. Because even if you share a link that redirects somehow, like we bought other domain names, they still figured out. We've been deleted from YouTube. We've been deleted from Instagram. We've been deleted from Twitter. We've been deleted from PayPal. We've been deleted from our email marketing platform. we've
I mean,
been
how do you know
censored
he's the
everywhere.
real deal? Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been
I mean, can you
pretty
imagine
cool.
the sirens right now going off? Alec
Oh
Zeck and
man.
Reagan Long, they're together.
Yeah,
We got to
yeah.
take them down for good.
Yeah, exactly. So
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I want to say anyone who is able to donate, um, because it is people like us who are going above and beyond, and we're going against the agenda for good, for humanity, trying to spread awareness and truth. We are, here, Abby and I, we've lost our monetization for 8 months because we're speaking truth, and it's like a hill we're willing to die on,
Yeah.
and we refuse to do otherwise. And so right now you are your organization. We're relying on you, on people. We're relying on you to be able to continue our activism and spreading awareness and spreading truth in order to help you. And so I encourage everyone to say it one more time.
Healthfreedomforhumanity.org.
Perfect.
And we will be launching our new membership platform on September 9th. And all that will be required in order to become a member is that you donate to us on a recurring monthly or annual basis.
Awesome. Well, I'll sign up. I'll be
Thank
over
you.
there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And everyone, is that the place where you'd like to send everybody? I know right now you're on a Facebook ban. Is
Yep.
that the best place for people to find you?
Yeah,
The
I'm
website?
on my personal 8th, 9th, and 10th Instagram accounts. I have 3 accounts that are up right now. And quick little fun story showing that their censorship doesn't work anyway is that my 8th Instagram account, although it's heavily shadow banned now, I have over 100,000 followers, and that's more than I've ever had on Instagram through all my other accounts, showing that each time I come back stronger and actually, gain more followers, so they can't suppress my voice no matter how hard they try. But I don't share my Instagram on podcasts or lives like this because I found that it sort of every time that I do that, people come back like, "Oh my God, he's been deleted. Where's his new account?" So I just don't share it. Like jinxes the situation. So
Right. Well, it is. And even when I looked you up to follow you on Instagram and Twitter, I had to type in a few different names because other accounts had been deleted. So, I mean,
yeah,
if there's any proof that they are after this man for good reason to shut him down from sharing the truth, I mean, that's all you need to know right there. But it is, God always prevails. The truth always prevails. I think that's a huge testament to your old followers finding you again, even after they try to shut you down. New people. I know so many people are going to be listening to this over the next few days, next few weeks. And I just commend you for what you do. It is not easy to go up against another huge agenda out there. And so please keep spreading truth. And I'm so grateful for all you do.
thank you so much, Reagan. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yes. So let's do it again. Let's keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely.